for May 16th. We just
You want this one? Want this one?
I'll set you. I'll set.
I just have to download my proof then. And they said it takes 48 hours. No, what you do is when you get done with the form, you submit it. Then it takes 24 to 48 hours for them to
let you know
on their thing.
There
It is. Grab it and say, see where it's fine? Where's the other thing? Which one is it? You gotta do some sort of file. Used to be the form one.
Right.
I owe the rest of me.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. Today is Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, April 23rd. This is a special meeting that's called for to discuss the remediation of mold in the city of Helen, in the City Hall of Dublin, anyway. So if you would give me.
It's a workshop.
Workshop, what's that called?
Special meeting.
Special meeting, workshop, thank you. I'm glad you're on point. I guess we can't have the,
You don't want to mislead anyone.
not, especially when we're on tape too. Can we stand have the ceremonial? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We may stand for 1 second. Just have a quick prayer. Ceremonially, Father God, we come together to do the business of the city of Lake Helen. We ask that all things be done. Tonight will be an uplifting and encouraging to all of our citizens to know that we are doing their work. These things we ask in your son's name. Amen. So, as a repeat, it's a workshop on the City Hall mold remediation and restoration. There were 4 contractors that were listed, 3 of them here. Fourth one is not going to be making it, not going to make it. Okay. I'm turning over to our city administrator.
Yes, Mayor and Council, it's a little unusual to have a workshop where you brought in vendors, but they did provide estimates prior to me coming in reference to your issue here at City Hall. And since I only know bits and pieces, and there's kind of a big difference in scope from the different companies who's actually holding that, they may help educate me and the council to understand the magnitude of the problem and what are the minimal and the maximum solutions so that you can make a decision, not tonight, but at some point of addressing the building.
Okay.
All of the estimates that came in are above a threshold where we have to get anyway. So, none of the companies are being selected here tonight. Those who participate, I appreciate you coming out, and hopefully they will be part of the discussion. Since I'm not an old expert, give the mayor and commission, I guess, the information and the tools they need to bring this back on an agenda item and decide what you want to do.
Okay. Before we had that, we had a professional air monitoring that kind of gave us an assessment. So that would be, I guess, the baseline of what we're looking to correct. I'll read it quickly. As per our conversation, this is to our city clerk, per our conversation regarding the indoor air evaluation report on the 2nd floor at Lake Helen City Hall building, there are currently no published standards of risks associated with exposure to bioaerosols. Bioaerosols samples were collected in quantities measured of microbial presence in the evaluated area and on the outside. Additionally, a sample we collected outside to serve as a baseline indicator of microbial presence in fresh air for comparison to the indoor air samples. To date, neither NIOSH, National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, nor OSHA has developed recommendations or standards for microbial contamination. In the absence of these standards, researchers recommend that indoor allergen D levels should be less than outdoor levels, where outdoor air is the only source of air for the building and the taxia should be similar or below. Everyone's immune system is different. Therefore, some individuals may be affected differently than others. I appreciate the opportunity of service and look forward to a continued relationship. That said, we be given a presentation by the okay, since the 3, who was here first? I saw the first guy upstairs. Would you like to give us a bit of a capsulated version of what you see and what we can?
First, Mayor, can I just check?
Yes, sir.
Roxanne, did all the companies get a copy of the peer review report? Okay, so everybody was working from the same package.
And I was actually trying to pull that up on my iPad. If you have a copy, I would use it just to kind of keep everyone on the same page.
Yeah, let me go ahead. How many do you want to do? Three?
And if you could, give us your name and where you represent.
Sounds good. Do you want me to join here at the table, or?
Yeah, as long as I can hear you on here, so you can get loud as you can.
You're good. This I have. My iPad is just a little slow loading, so sorry. I was just going to use that for the air quality test. Good evening. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm Eli Marks, owner of All Dry Water and Mold. All Dry has been around since 2014. And my company, which is a family-based business, along with my wife, who couldn't join us tonight. This is my son, Mason, who is a part of our team as well, and my nephew, who did all the original inspections with Roxanne. So it's kind of a family affair. We have over 50 years collectively in remediation experience, and we, as part of the Volusia County communities, including Lake Helen, we were very interested in helping support any issues around keeping your home, or in this case, the community buildings, clean and safe. And mold, as many of you know, is kind of no joke. There's definitely issues that are part of the city facilities here. And as we did the initial inspections late last year, I just did a cursory view of some of the main areas that you're seeing what's called microbial growth. And the mayor had referenced several of the things that are in the air quality report that are kind of an outcome of what you're seeing visibly in the environment. So mold, first and foremost, is a natural, it's part of nature. That's why they measure the outside and the inside. And it's true that you're looking for, what is in the environment inside versus what you typically see on the outside. Lots of molds are completely harmless. Some you have to pay closer attention to than others, and can cause, concern and harm to human health. So that's kind of why we're here. That's why you wanted us to put an estimate together based on what we're seeing. What we observed is really, you start with, why did this happen? And Roxanne and I have had many conversations around what we're seeing in the different parts of the building. We believe that a lot of the things that you're seeing, especially on the second floor, are a result of water damage. In many cases, especially in the main room, in those, you don't see them down here, but the air diffusers that you can see in that room, or there's 8 of them, that is a ducting system that most likely is not insulated to an effective level. And those metal ducts will sweat over time. If there's a hot cavity up there, you're going to get condensation on the outside of your ducting. And where you see that, all that discoloration around the diffusers up there, that's an example of microbial growth. And that's what was tested in an air sample, because once it sits on a surface like that, it can become airborne over time through two ways. One, it can kind of grow on its own, and the spores can kind of fly off and go into the environment on their own. Or when you do active remediation, and if you don't contain the areas as you're doing the work, that can also put it off in the environment. So our job as a company that is licensed to do remediation work in the state of Florida, we also have our EPA designation for lead-safe renovation. I believe this building has been certified as lead-free, so we're in a good space there. We have all of the certifications for water damage, odor, and biohazard. We're not dealing with biohazard here, we're just dealing with microbial growth. And it looks like from the report, there's a decent amount of growth in those visible areas. And going back to the original point, and I think any of the other companies would agree with this, we're also going to make recommendations on how to care for this issue so you don't have more water intrusion in the future and have this problem be recurrent. It appears that it's been picked up in the HVAC systems, so a full cleaning of those systems would be recommended by a licensed HVAC contractor. In our case, we worked to put ABC through a quote to give work on the duct systems and the HVAC systems themselves. And for what we're seeing in the areas that do have issues, including some of the office rooms in the record room area upstairs, as well as the museum downstairs, the water damage could be not just linked a lot of it should be linked to those HVAC ducts, but in order to prevent that in the future, we think insulation of those ducts, those metal ducts up on the second floor would be needed, along with full cleaning, in order to reduce the amount of condensation that's coming off those metal ducts. That wouldn't be the work that's in scope for us, because we don't really get into the HVAC systems themselves, but where we would go, once we see what is causing the issue, we would say, you want to take care of that so you don't have this issue recurring in the future. Just like if the roof was leaking, you would say, well, we can do the work to get your place clean or dry, but you got to get the roof fixed first. It's kind of like one step at a time. So ABC has submitted a quote for cleaning of the duct systems. I don't know if they've given a full quote for reducting, but we can clarify that with them. To see if that's needed in the future. As far as our scope of work goes, we've broken it down for information that you've seen in front of you in 4 different spaces. And essentially, the work that we would do would be within a contained space, which means that work could be ongoing within the building in a safe environment, because we would contain off, or cordon off with 6mm plastic sheeting, top to bottom, with tape and glue to ensure that those areas would not be cross-contaminating other areas. We would then, once the areas are cordoned off and secure from a barrier standpoint, we would remove material that has the growth on it to an area beyond any growth visible on either side of the material. In this case, I think the ceilings are a combination of plaster and drywall, but we would remove that beyond a foot beyond anything that is visibly seen. We would then clean all areas of wood studs or other areas that remain. We don't remove structural wood stud material, but we scrub and clean it if there is growth on that. And then use machines called air scrubbers, which actually filter all the air with a HEPA filter to ensure that anything that is airborne is captured in that machine, along with dehumidifiers that would dry any areas that we're putting a wet antimicrobial, basically it's called BioX, and it attacks any of the mold on the source. But we need to dry that to ensure that you've got a dry environment. And then the last piece of the process for any of those materials that remain would be a process called encapsulation. And encapsulation is a really fancy way of saying we take a mold product that envelops any of the studs. It looks like paint. It kind of looks like we're painting, but it's basically an encapsulation product that ensures that no mold can grow back in those surfaces from the application of that growth. So again, the idea is address the cause of the issue, remediate, and put into place things that will keep you safe for years to come, so this doesn't become a recurring issue. Once those steps are done, and that last piece is the encapsulation piece for any of the areas that we are touching, we would then do a final thermal fog with a hot thermal fog machine that allows the particles to go basically in all surfaces. It is plant-based. It is harmless to people, pets, and plants, but it's what we use to address any mold that may have not been caught in any of the other areas. We can do that at the end of any workday. Typically, it can be an area that is a large space like this. It would be be back, you wouldn't want to sit in there in the fog, but it would probably be fine to be back in within 15 minutes. So, not a lot of impact to your day-to-day work structure as it relates to what you're dealing with, with the city business. Roxanne and I, we've talked a lot about, the concern of operating in a safe environment. So we would do that based on the schedule of what, you would see fit. But as far as the work goes, I think our scope probably allows for about a week for us to complete all of the tasks. It could be 6 business days. But I do want to say that we are not putting back the material that is taken. So that is another company. That's part of our model as well. We don't want to be a company that offers both. We would simply only do the remediation work. And the reason for that is that it is part of the All Dry mottos. We want to do the right work, and we don't want to do a single step beyond what's required. There are some people in the industry that do what's called over demo, meaning, I'll go back to the large room upstairs. Well, that whole ceiling needs to go. Well, it doesn't really need to go. If there is clean material a foot beyond, you have a viable building that has been here for over 100 years. And some of the work that would need to take place to take the whole ceiling down simply isn't called for. So,
But you won't know that until you tear into it though, right?
and that's a great point. So we are only making our assessment right now based on what we see and on the report. So I'll give a real example. If we go up into the ceiling and we stick our heads up once we get scaffolding and are pulling off that area that you can see that's obviously impacted, we're going to keep going until a foot beyond any impacted area. If you stick your head up and the whole area is covered in growth, it could change. It will change the scope of the project at that point. We tried our best to put scope cameras, little cameras on a wire, to take a look around, but based on the size and scope of that room, it's just really hard to do without putting full ladder systems and scaffolding in there in order to do that. So it could, the scope of the work could change based on what we find. And that goes with any growth project, that we deal with, but we'll see when we get up there. So, great question.
You did provide the quote for restoration, though you're not going to be doing the work. We do have a quote from your selected organization for the restoration.
For the build back,
Yes.
You got it. We call it build back, yeah, restoration.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's okay. There's a lot of terms that get thrown around. You got the restoration, remediation, that's mold, that's what we're doing, and then the reconstruction or build back or restoration. And that's an integrated construction, I think.
Now, is the problem local throughout the entire building, or is it more isolated to the one side over here where you have a lot of damage?
Yeah, the damage that we saw, I think it appears to have happened over time. I don't know when the first time anyone can recall seeing visible growth, but
At least 3 years.
yeah.
Because the roof was leaking for a while before we got the roof done.
Yeah, and the roof is fixed now, is my
The
understanding.
windows are still.
Brand new roof.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, windows might be another process. to
Yes.
consider.
And windows are a typical source for water intrusion into any property. So that could be a second issue that needs to be addressed as well. Some of the roof, or some of the areas that were leaking from a window standpoint, I think are covered in our estimate as well, but we couldn't waterproof from the outside. We would just do the remediation on the inside. And window treatment, that's going to be a completely necessary step to ensure that you're not getting additional water into the property. To answer your question, Mayor, I think if you're talking 3 to 5 years, it's definitely in your AC systems. I would not be surprised at all, which is why we made the recommendation for a full cleaning of the HVAC system at the same time that this remediation goes on. That way you're addressing all the ductwork from a cleaning standpoint. ABC has provided a bid for that, as well as the system condensers as well, what you see in those closets. So they would actually detach those machines. We would do any remediation work around, that's the perfect time to do the work around those areas where the HVAC closets are. And they take those units to clean any of the components. So at the end of the day, you're addressing the HVAC system, which I think could be impacting air quality in different parts of the building for sure, given the time that you've seen growth in it just stands to reason that is happening.
Is there any benefit to having the air conditioner running full time? Because we keep it running so as to keep down the growth. Is that
It's a great question. Yeah, it does help. It may sound counterintuitive because you're like, well, wait, there's growth in the system, but actually, air conditioners are a natural dehumidifier, and the enemy of mold is dry air. They love moist environments that have, all they need is some type of moisture and a little structure to kind of eat on. And the air running is a natural dehumidifier, so it's not a bad thing. Especially at this point, because it's already picked up in the system. It's not, kind of is what it is.
Mayor, it's a general discussion, so I want the other companies don't feel like they're shut out.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, with the HVAC issue, I'm in full agreement. The likelihood that microbial growth hasn't spread throughout the remainder of the building is very low. And we also have individuals here that may have been affected by it in certain capacities, whether it's allergenic or otherwise. So the likelihood is that it's through the HVAC, and it also is being affecting everybody else. Not only is the HVAC really good for dehumidifying, but it's also really important because you have your air filters and your air filtration that is going to be removing potential mold spores that are in the air. That's going to be helping the system in general get rid of some of it. Now the problem is, with a traditional filter that you get from Lowe's or Home Depot or anything along those lines, you're not going to be getting the proper filter. You're running at maybe 30 or 40% on a single pass, which Jim, I ended up showing you last time I was here. We have some state-of-the-art filtration that nobody really has access to, that has a 99.725% single pass filtration. It's beyond the level of HEPA, and that's something that we're going to be able to get you guys as a separate add-on after the remediation itself. That's going to enable clean air consistently.
Can I stop you?
Yes.
Give us your name and your company, because
All right.
you're a continuation of them.
Sure. So I'm Max Jensen. I am the Vice President of NanoGuard, and I have right here Greg Rapido. He is my Chief Operational Officer here at NanoGuard as well.
And if I may, what was your name?
Eli.
I'm going to apologize to you right now. Because your presentation was amazing. And now I just stand on your shoulders. because I can agree with almost everything. So what I would like to do is only really right now highlight the areas where we kind of have some variance. I'm not going to say disagree, because I can tell by his presentation that he's incredibly professional, and my hat's off to you. I love meeting an industry professional who has the type of etiquette that you have. It's wonderful. So I'll only talk about the places where we disagree. Number one.
Well, before you finish, have you finished? If you finish, then you can start. But there's kind of an overlap here, so I want to keep it.
I think we are at a point where we can transition.
Okay.
If you want, we'll jump back into the conversation.
Okay.
I got a question.
Oh, sure.
In your evaluation process, did you evaluate any of the walls?
Yes. Yeah, and I think there is some scope of work with, because there was a moisture reading. I don't recall the rooms that we saw moisture. I think it might have been.
Should be the two north rooms.
Yeah, and I think that it was
Or south rooms, I mean.
Yeah, upstairs where the piano was soaking wet.
Yeah, we've got moisture readings in a couple of areas. So our quote covers those areas as well. And I don't know if there is something specific that you're looking for on those walls, but if it was wet, at this point, we would probably, in the scope, it would be remediation, inclusive of probably removal of material on the wall.
Well, I know on the south wall, there was a metal I-beam installed, and over the years,
settling and everything is pretty and open, water's coming in from the rains outside into the wall. In the two bottom offices, is, what work will you do to remediate that problem? Well, if it's water coming from the outside, we are not the company that does waterproofing. So that is something that is needed. It's kind of the same as, I'm glad you got the roof fixed because you're eliminating areas of risk. That would be another area of external risk that you would want to have addressed, and we could recommend some contractors. I don't know if any trade put that in their scope of work or not.
I did show them, so they are aware.
Okay.
They are aware, sorry.
So we did show the contractor that would do the reconstruction inside, that area of what Roxanne's saying, so they would be addressing that separately.
Thank you.
I have a question. On the breakout sheet, where we're dividing the remediation, the AC, and then repair and restoration, they're all right, correct?
All
My quote on one page is different. It went up.
Probably was a reevaluation.
I imagine, but I don't know what.
I do know that when we first came out, there were two areas that we did not get to see in our initial scope, and we drew the scope of work. When we came back out, it was actually after ABC had done the HVAC inspections, and they noted a couple of things. One was a closet that has an open area up above in the records room. We just saw it looking there, but I saw it the first time.
And that's understandable.
Yeah.
I mean, that it's going to go up and it may still go up, but I
Right.
was just wondering if you could explain more.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll have an idea where we're moving. Excuse my voice.
Oh, no worries.
Allergy problems.
Yeah.
Not building problems.
Each room is going to be a little bit different in terms of scope, just based on the amount of, literally the square footage. It comes down to the square footage of the room, the square footage of the areas that we're addressing. If there's an area, for example, and are you referring to an HVAC closet? I'm not sure which area you're looking at there.
Well, when I got to the total on basically what would look like a work order, it was, the price had increased. Now, with the air conditioning company, their price is like $3,700. Can we count on that remaining the same? Did they come out and inspect, or did it look like they did?
That's not replacing ductwork?
It's not replacing ductwork, yeah. So Roxanne's right on that.
So that price isn't correct, I know it would be higher.
It's not the same scope as the other two
No, I'm
contractors.
just talking about you.
Right, so what his price is not the same scope of work as the other two contractors, that's why it's less.
That's just clean.
It's just clean.
It's just cleaning. And I think,
Yeah, but I'm just wondering if this price could rise, they came out and they looked at the AC.
correct. Our price would not rise based on their work, but their price could rise.
That's what I mentioned.
And I would say it will rise if they're gonna replace the ducting on the second floor.
So we're just getting estimates today that we can figure out.
That's gonna be,
Will rise.
so that's gonna be really important, just to get apples to apples, because right now there is different scopes of work with Eli, and then you can get a more comprehensive idea and just make the decision that's best for you.
Now, I get that it's a different scope, but
Right.
I'm looking at the cost now
Right.
going up and then maybe changing. And if we get closer to making this all happen, we've certainly got a budget we've got to look at. So we
Absolutely.
need to have, some kind of a range that we're
Absolutely.
going to stay within. Okay, finished. Rick?
I have a general question, again, being the layman, other than that knowing the history of the building. If the windows are a problem, another sealing of the building is the issue, are all of these Band-Aids until they do something about sealing the entire envelope of this building and preventing any further intrusion of any kind of moisture or whatever that creates mold? Because you're kind of talking about treating what's here, but if you've got issues of windows and doors, and it's not just upstairs. I mean, I was told today, I guess the whole downstairs is
Downstairs,
full of
downstairs,
mold,
the
so
shelves.
it's just maybe we don't see it on this floor, so I'm trying to get, is it like doing a Band-Aid on something, or are you really talking about that there's a much bigger scope that needs to be looked at before you even get to clean up and remediate?
Yeah, I mean, based on what you're sharing,
And that's all three.
Yeah. I think you're on the right path with starting with the roof, because the roof is, you know, that's a big one. But you mentioned the I-beam. If there's water intrusion happening there, you're gonna need to address that, you know, sooner than later. And going to your question about the windows, you're gonna, if you've got windows that are actively allowing moisture to come into the building itself, you need to address that. Is it a Band-Aid? I'm not here to tell you need all new windows. You know, that's gonna be a decision for you all to make, because there's a lot of factors in that. The goal is not to just completely seal the building, in my opinion. You want a building to be able to breathe. And in fact, there's been a lot of evidence of new construction where it's so tight and it doesn't allow for a building to actually have a little give and take from a breathability standpoint, that it actually does make it harder for it to stay a healthy environment. So you're not looking for like a dome over this place, you know, that just doesn't allow any airflow, especially a building this old. You know, you've got a historic building here that has a lot there. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question completely, but I wouldn't recommend, you know, a complete sealing of. You want to be thorough with all your work, but you're not going for perfection when it comes to.
And for the longevity of the building's 100 years old, the windows have got to be 100 years old. They cannot be insulation, they cannot be efficient.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about saving money, we can also consider saving money by having a less of an electric bill, because the windows are definitely, whatever our air conditioner puts out, if our windows doesn't stop, it just goes right out.
It goes right, okay.
So like my grandmother used to
You got a
say,
lot of factors then in your decision.
my grandmother used to say when I walk out the door, we trying to air condition the whole neighborhood. So that's what we're doing in a sense, but the windows are not as efficient as they should
You
be.
know, and engineering and architecture came a long way,
Yeah.
for sure.
When the building was built, it was efficient for that time.
What he's saying is absolutely the truth. When you have a building that's sealed too tightly, I mean, there's you know, when you open the windows to let fresh air in, that's a real thing, right? If you have the same air circulating inside of an environment without any mix, what we call, actually when we're doing remediations, we call it makeup air. You need fresh air coming in, right? So if it's too tight, then that becomes an issue as well. But I'm not sure that that's what you're asking. What you're kind of asking is, hey, if we have water intrusion coming from the outside, independent of the source, does that need to be done before you guys do your work? The blunt answer is yes, it should be, absolutely. But that's why All Day and us as well, and I'm sure others here as well, have our third-party vendor partners that we work alongside that can help you every step of the way, so that you're not having to go out and try to find another vendor, right? We're just here to make sure that the process goes as smoothly as possible. So if something needs to happen, you know, a day before we come in, 2 days before we come in, we'll help get all of that scheduled. Rather than you having to communicate with 6 different entities to make this one project happen, you'll be able to utilize us as a liaison with those different companies to make sure all the scheduling and everything runs as smoothly as possible.
Can they follow up also? No.
Angela.
Angela, there we go. Sorry, Angela.
Well, I've been listening.
Yeah,
You know,
but what I want to get at is, again, it's not competition. Like you say, the scope was different in how you looked at it, you know, versus the gentleman who just presented. So help me and the board kind of walk through what you looked at differently and how you come up with your plan. And then, Angela, you guys, I think, are kind of on the same page.
I don't believe so, but go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, almost
almost everything he said, I'm 100% on board with. The only difference for us, for example, he said they cut 1 foot past, we go 2 feet past. That's a very small difference, but in aggregate, it makes a big difference, right? So we always go 2 foot beyond the visible. Also, he mentioned something that I agree with 100%, is that there are a lot of companies out there, if they're getting paid to do the rebuild, they will cut more than necessary. He mentioned cutting out the entire ceiling upstairs, and he doesn't believe that's necessary because he's only going 1 foot past. The reason we do believe it's necessary is because you may or may not be aware the ceiling you have is floated. The water from the roof has penetrated one ceiling to make it to the lower ceiling. That floating ceiling has to go to access the ceiling behind it. That's not optional. I mean, I can tell you that I don't have to see it. I can tell you that in order for the water to get to that floating ceiling, it had to pass through the actual ceiling. So the whole ceiling has to go for us to even begin to look at the second one. Due to the amount of growth that we've observed, we've just recommended cutting them all out because when we do a change order as NanoGuard, we prefer to change order down than a change order up whenever possible. I'd rather come in and say, hey, good news, we don't actually have to cut the whole thing out. Rather than say, hey, by the way, here's an extra few $1,000s you're gonna have to pay because we didn't anticipate. Not, again, a shot at him because his practice is incredibly ethical. We just have a different way of looking at it. I know for a fact that the entire faux ceiling has to go. That includes electrical, things of that nature, which again, we don't do. That's a third-party company because they've got to disconnect the electrical for us to get everything out. The faux ceiling behind it, I'm anticipating, in all honesty, that the entire thing probably has to go as well. But as the young lady mentioned, we won't know that with certainty until we get to observe it. The only thing that we've done so far is stick my head up and look around, which you can only see so far in the darkness. Beyond that, he uses a hot fogger, we use an electrostatic sprayer, or a gas fogger. We use a different chemical, but they effectively have the same effect. The electrostatic spraying difference from a fogger is that a fogger effectively, you know, I mean, all of you have seen fog machines, right? If the fog hits you, it bounces off and dissipates, whereas the electrostatic sprayer will actually envelop an item. So for anything within about 8 feet, we can use that electrostatic spraying rather than fogging. Now when we get beyond that, then we would have to do the fogging as well because we have a gas fogger that pushes much farther. But if we're up on scaffolding, we can get up into the roof with that electrostatic sprayer, that's what we would use. Beyond that, as someone over here mentioned, it's not just upstairs. And it's not just over here. It's right here.
Yes. And
It's in Roxanne's office.
Yes.
Right? So it extends far beyond just the upstairs. And those are the different things that we've noticed. Beyond that, like I said, to be completely honest, I'm kind of cheating right now. Because he said, everything else that he said is exactly the same. And like you said, it's really not a competition. I think that we're all industry experts here. And really what it comes down to is finding the best solution that's going to work for you guys. Because everything else is pretty much the same. So when it comes to walls, things of that nature, as you asked, wet walls, I agree. If the wall is wet, it comes out. It doesn't matter if it currently has microbial growth on it. In the state of Florida in particular, if water sits for longer than 8 hours, it upgrades from category 1 to category 2. Category 2 being category 1 water being water that's safe to drink. That's your bathtub, right? Your toilet, as gross as that may sound, your sink. Category 2 is water that if ingested has the risk of getting you sick. The microbial load in Florida is such, we live in a swamp, that if water sits, meaning a glass of water, for longer than 8 hours, you should dump it. So if this has been wet for any period of time, it's whether it has mold or not, we've got viruses, we've got bacteria, we've got molds, we've got funguses, it's got to go. It's got to come out. So I agree with you 100% on that. So, you know, the scope of work as we provided, as with Eli has provided, is based upon the visual assessment that we've seen and some anticipated challenges along the way. Again, if we don't encounter those challenges, then we just pull them off the invoice and you don't pay that money. But like I said, for the most part, I agree wholeheartedly with everything you said. I'm kind of cheating and I feel bad about it, but that's the reality of the situation.
And ultimately, we are in a historic building. I'm sure no matter who you choose as far as...
I have to use it.
Go ahead. And as far as any of the contractors here, I'm sure we're more than looking at keeping the peace here and ensuring that any of the scope of work isn't going to extend beyond, and we're not going to be damaging, say, the flooring, for instance. So we all utilize for protection. We're going to make sure that when we're doing the work, that it isn't going to get scuffed up, it's not going to be damaged. As you mentioned, this is a 100-year-old building. We want to keep it standing, right? So at the end of the day, I think it's just something that you need to discuss amongst yourselves and choose who you're most comfortable with, and we're here to answer any questions that you may have.
From your professional perspective, how far are we away from being in a trailer? Or how close are we? I should
We need
say.
to do that now.
I'll say this, yeah, we could be there this week.
Good.
I have a question.
Yes.
You guys all came out and you've looked at the building, you went upstairs, and you stuck your head up there and you
Sure.
looked around. I think that the commissioners here and the citizens that have been dealing with this problem for quite a while would expect that there's probably more wrong than what you can see by sticking your head up there. So I'm kind of concerned on how we're getting the quotes with not actually having hands on everything so we can make a decision
Well, if you read
without
it,
going in blind.
that's why we can't, because they won't know until they start tearing things out. That's the problem.
That's why you get a job change order that
Well,
when they get in,
They
they
did
see what
take
it
some
really
pictures
is.
and stuff.
Yeah, because we have to hire them in order for them to start
Okay.
the work, in order for.
Can I step into this
sure,
one?
I get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It's
I
like-
mean, I'm looking at a quote that looks like it would go double that. So that's really good eyes on, exactly.
Yeah.
That's, but all of them could do that.
Well,
Can I,
That's
can I step in just a little bit here?
Please.
Okay, I'm Angelo Rotondo Construction. I'm a resident of Lake Helen. I'm also a general contractor. A person like me hires gentlemen like this. These guys are talking, they know what they're talking about, okay? But how many of you are contractors, homeowners? Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. I propose that.
I'm an inspector, is that?
Okay, that does. But I propose with my people that I have a quote for you, okay? But it's just one avenue I have. If these gentlemen, either one of them, they both are very highly experienced on this stuff, I would hire them also. But I want to be your set of eyes. You guys have to worry about this beautiful city of us, okay? And you have to make the decisions. I want to be your set of eyes, and I want to oversee what they're doing. If there's issues that we need to take care of, I can do that. I have over, I don't know, I started maybe with 78, I believe, as a carpenter in the union. So I've seen a lot of stuff. I'm from the north, so mold and everything, snow problems, all that good stuff. I've seen a lot of it. I've been down here now for 24 years, and I've been building high-rise condominiums on the beach of Daytona. And in that, you see a lot because of, it takes 2 to 3 years to build a condo. And in that time, you do get mold because windows are open, they're left open, and rain comes in, all that great stuff. So that's my thing. I want to try to work with you. I want to help you out. And I am going to be very, very, very reasonable, almost to nothing, as your set of eyes. Okay? Because I am a citizen, I am a resident of Lake Helen. I've been here now 6 years, about 6 years. And I just want to help out. That's the whole thing. All right? So I would be the person that would, if they come up with another area and they feel they need to go more, we don't want to get, oh, you guys are working. You need to get this stuff done. But I can come over and I can take a look at the problem that they're finding.
Project manager.
Yes. I can take a look at all this stuff for you. And I can give you my opinion. So it's just going to be like cutting out something here, you know, where it's going back and forth and all this. And I can give you my recommendation. All right? And then I can find the other guys that can fix all the waterproofing and stuff that we have around here. But yeah, you need to take care of it. It's been going on for 5, 6 years. It needs to be taken care of. So
that's one of the biggest problems with all stuff. If you let it sit for too long, it's just gonna grow and grow and grow, and that's what's happening, okay? You got the roof fixed, then I guess you have another problem. After you fix the roof, there's another problem. No one probably took a look at that stuff. That's my job, okay? That's what I want to do for you. I want to be there for you. You've been an inspector, you know what I'm talking about, I believe you do. And if you're a builder, you know what I'm talking about, all right? Your job is to run the city and take care of the city matters. I want to come into it and help you out and be your set of eyes and try to help you out. I have some ideas on windows, okay? We used to do replacement windows. In this case, we have a 9-foot high window, 40 inches wide from brick to brick. I know we want to do all historic, but I'm also on the historic committee. So I know what they can try to get away with. And what I want to do with this is give you your insulated windows, okay? But you're not going to have your wooden panes. You're going to have the grids inside the glass. But we can use the same frame. We have to reseal it, make it watertight again. I went through most of these windows. Did I catch everything? No. I have to really get into it. The wood in these windows has been here 100 years. I walked around. There's not a lot of rot areas. So these windows, the wood frame of it can be sandblasted and repainted. Before that, when the sandblasting gets done, that's when we're going to find out how much is really rotting away. Okay? Then it can all be repainted. The panes of glass, instead of having an opening window, it'll be one pane of glass, okay? If we can do that, and everyone's in agreement to that, because I know it gets a little far away from the historic part of it, but it still looks...
We're not on the historic registry.
It's not on the registry, I know, you're right, it's not on the registry, but it's still, it's just like, I'm part of Lake Helen Methodist Church, and I'm the trustee for that. And it's like I had the same situation. That's 102 years old. I'm not sure who got built first. But I wasn't here. Mr. Bud Kraft was 102.
Yes, he is.
Okay. But that's what I want to do for you. I want to come up with a game plan. I think with these windows, because we take these windows out and replace these windows, it's going to be a lot of money. If we can do what I'm saying, just a pane of glass would be under $1,000 for one pane of glass. You have over 69 of these big windows, okay? Just think about that. If you went and bought a whole new window out of Pella or one of these manufacturers that do the historic windows, or even had someone come in and try to reglaze them all, you would be paying so much more. So there is ways of doing this. Stay with the integrity of the historic look and save us some money. But that's what I'm here for, to help you guys. These gentlemen, like I said, if their price is better than the guys that I had, I'd be more than happy to tell you, hey, this is the guy you want, or this is the gentleman you need to do the work. And that's what I do. So, I just want you to know, if something else you want to talk about with it, just ask me whatever you want. But that's how I want to help you, okay?
I do have a question for you,
Yes.
actually. I've heard a few things that have been said about add-ons that we foresee coming. Is there something that you know or foresee you will be paying for that's not included in your quote? I know some, I think maybe you mentioned electrical and you know, ductwork, right? So there's a few different things. What does that look like on your quote?
My quote is to just, my guys that did it are going to replace them. Just, they're going to clean the units.
Okay.
The units are still salvageable,
Uh-huh.
but just clean up, you know, take those ducts right out. That's what my guys quoted.
Okay. So putting it back is something that's not included?
Yes, no, it's included. It's all
Oh, it is
included. In the quote I gave, my guys were going to remove it and replace all the ductwork. And they were going to clean out the AC units.
Now, are all of these companies certified with EPA?
I'm a general contractor. don't have any, but these gentlemen have.
We're licensed and, yeah.
Licensed, insured,
The
we have net-
company here to bring in would be certified to be able to do that whole renewal.
Yeah, no, we have, we're licensed by the
Yeah,
state
because I
board.
was talking remediation and stuff like that on this contract too, as a general contract.
Yeah, but he, like you said, he would contract a company out like theirs to do the mold removals.
General contractors are a little bit different.
I know.
Yeah, they're.
I know. I'm sitting here asking questions. I ask a lot of
The
questions.
one thing that-
My answer.
The one thing that I would like to recommend for the room upstairs, and I agree with these gentlemen here, that roof should just, that whole ceiling should just come right out. But I hate to redo it, as, I would love to do it as a stucco, but you know what? This building's 100 years, and I'm hoping it's gonna be another 100 years. So there are beautiful drop ceilings that have the look of the old-fashioned tiles that we can install there. Now, if you have this problem again down the road, it don't have to take, a long time. You go in, take the tiles down, and put the new ones back. I believe in Deb's office, she has the metal ones, the metal drop-in 2x2s, okay? They have other ones that you could use too. And it would still look, I think it would look better than the stucco ceiling. It would look like the real old-fashioned ceilings. I think you guys seen that before?
Yes.
What do you think of that? What do you guys?
I've actually recommended it in some large commercial, especially large commercial one recently that we ended up going in and doing some assessments on and whatnot. That was something that was big. They had problems with the HVAC. They had problems with the roof. Very similar to this situation. And that was actually my suggestion, is to be able to remove a tile is so much cheaper than to be able to have to do all this cutout and everything else.
See, what you have to remember.
Historical home in Sanford.
Yeah.
We did the same thing with those tiles, and it really did enhance the historical look.
Right. What you have to remember here, when this school was built, okay, there was no AC. The windows were your AC. You open the window up, got some fresh air in. Well, they decided to put AC in now. A lot of your ceilings had to get dropped. So you had a void in there, and that's the void that this gentleman here was talking about. Sorry, I forgot your name.
Correct.
I'm bad. I'm Angelo, so.
Angelo,
But he's right, I mean, but that's the reason why that ceiling got dropped, so they can run the ducts. So,
That's why that big round wooden vent thing's in the center of the room, so the
Yeah.
air would go up and out the roof.
Yeah.
That's the way the air flows from underneath.
and he was also right about fresh air, but I don't know if you, and I think you know it, but AC units now, it's a code to get fresh air to your AC units from outside. That's a code that has to be done. And you have to have enough fresh air, because he's right. You lock these windows in, they're all solid. These windows are all solid anyway. I don't think any of them open. And if you guys know they open, I don't think so.
Well, we
But-
talked, I'm sorry, Ricky was in a conversation with us in one meeting about the windows, and he also was talking about what we would have to do. Obviously, we couldn't leave the same windows for the outside, but there was something, I think, Ricky, you mentioned.
Well, they have replica windows, but like he said, it's gonna be an awful, I think you're looking, last time they got a price was close to 200,000 plus, $250,000 to get the windows for this place. They definitely gotta be done, and his idea may be the best way.
Yeah.
But if you don't seal this outside up,
Sandblast.
you might as well forget doing what you're doing right now, because you see it right there, I was gonna tell you that, it's everywhere. Those windows fall down, occasionally we have to screw them up the whole.
And what we do is, you have a stop on the outside. We would actually, I talked to the glass manufacturer, we buy the glass directly, we install the glass. But we put a little bigger stop on it, so we have a little more protection. Then we put another stop on the inside. When we put that stop on the inside, just like you have now, if you look at these windows, there's little screws in each one of those windows, okay? That's so you can take the panes out, and that's the same thing. We put that that big sheet of glass in there, we need to be able to take it out in case down the road you get an air pocket or something in there and it starts fogging, you want to replace it. Well, you don't want to completely, lock it in, you can't replace it, you need to always replace it. And that's all it is, it really, that wood on that thing, that's yellow pine if I'm not mistaken, that's all they had before. I can get the mill, Snowden, thank you. Bud Snowden will make us some nice wood up, I know he would.
I was gonna say for free. Because he will run a business.
So, but I mean, we could get whatever we need to get this thing back together, and you would still have some of the look, like I said, if we could keep that wood there, it would still be part of the historic look. The only thing is the glass itself, you're not gonna have to worry about all the cooking, the glazing around the panes, the cherry when the sun hits it,
These guys wouldn't be doing that.
No, they're not doing that. They're, like I said, these guys are doing one set of the job, and we would have other people doing other stuff.
We want to bring it back. Angelo, thank you for definitely what your input is. The city administrator?
Yeah, I do. I want to ask a question. Guys, if it sounds dumb, again, each one of you came in and looked at the job differently in reference to how you came up with your estimates to us. If I'm a city administrator and I'm bringing your proposals to the mayor and commission, there's a big stretch, between yours and Albright. And not that either one is wrong, but now I'm going to put a hat on of the folks sitting here in the back, citizens. You look at this, and somebody look at it very quickly and say, oh my gosh, you can fix this problem for $44,000. And somebody else's is $308. Okay, as a tax person, we don't want to spend a penny more than what we have to. But I kind of feel a little bit like I'm that guy that took my car to the mechanic. And somebody's saying, oh, I just need to change your oil, and the other person says you need a new engine. How do you give me a comfort zone? So I know that we're explaining to the citizens why we're asking them to come up with X number of dollars for what is the best fit.
First of all, the number that you have is the all-encompassing number. That's including all entities that we're working with. That's not our number. Our number, I think, is around 64.2, something like that. Again, just from the conversation we've had here, I can already tell our scope of work has some variance to it. Let's just say that. The only way to really tell which one's giving you the best value would be for you to do what's called an RFP, right? You would have to come up with the exact scope of work that you want to quote on, and then we quote on that. Right now, we're giving different quotes, so they're going to have different costs. And like you said, it's not that one is right or wrong, it's that we're coming at it with slightly different visions. Maybe I saw something that he didn't see, maybe he saw something I didn't see, because we are all human. Maybe that wasn't noticed. I mean, we've been out here maybe 4 or 5 times.
Yes.
The first 4 times we came out here, we weren't even allowed to come in this room. So if he experienced a similar thing in a different area, then he wouldn't have even been had the opportunity to see that. So that's where the variance of our prices is most likely coming from. The only way to find out which one has a better dollar value would be for you to come up with an RFP, perhaps based upon the scope of works that we provided as different companies, and then you would bid on that to see which one has a better bid.
And that's something that I would put together. I would put together a complete scope of work by looking at theirs and the one I have, and then, because even my guys just came in and, did their look. So that's just what I would have to do, actually have a scope of work, and it's going to be the same. This gentleman, you're going to have the same scope of work as you're going to have the same scope. And then my guy will have the same scope of work. Once I look at everyone's, and that's the way it's fair and even for everyone. Like I said, you guys are very highly experienced, and that's what we want. We want the more experienced people. We don't want the cheaper price all the time. I know you want to save money, but you want to get the job done right. The biggest thing is we don't know what's behind those walls. But we don't even know. Anyone know there's insulation in those walls? I don't think so.
Probably not.
Unless someone blew them in years ago, but most likely, there's no installation in that building.
And if I may piggyback on what Angela was saying, though we obviously have confidence in ourselves, and we have confidence in our vendor partners, it's never a bad idea to have a single unified vision, follow the thing all the way through, because once we finish our part, we have nothing to do, like with all we have nothing to do with Rico. We've put together an opportunity for you to work with a company that, again, we have act as a liaison with, which is, I'm sure, the exact same that all of us have done. But we don't have any control or oversight on these third-party companies. I'm not a licensed HVAC tech. I don't know what HVAC is, right? So I just have to trust the HVAC company that we partner with, that they do know. And I do trust them because we have a relationship with them. But if you have an individual who has a general piece of knowledge that can be tracked from every single piece of the job to the end, that has the knowledge of exactly what you're looking for in mind, that's never a bad thing. You have to decide whether it's needed or not, but it definitely isn't bad to do.
So I have a question about the comment, I've heard it from two different people about the whole ceiling needing to be replaced. And I heard what you said earlier about, well, the water leaks through, but doesn't the water, okay, and I'm ignorant, okay, I have no idea what I'm talking about, so understand that's where I'm coming from.
Good, I don't feel alone then.
Right, so I've done a little bit of construction, but not enough to be an expert. So doesn't the water just penetrate in one location? I mean, that's kind of where I'm not understanding. It's not the entire thing is covered with water, right?
Well, let me explain.
If it's dripping
If I poured
one
the water
spot.
right here, would it stay right here, or would it spread out?
Yeah, it's gonna spread out.
And if I poured the water onto this piece of paper, would it stay on this piece of paper or would it hit the paper below?
Right.
It will soak through and hit the paper below. So not only do you have the water hitting here and spreading out, but it will eventually leak through at its heaviest points, right? And it will hit the bottom. So the fact that we see microbial growth here means it could not have gotten there without going through here, because it came from the roof.
Right.
On top of that, as he's pointed out, a lot of it has come from the ducting, which is in between those two, which is why we're not 100%.
Oh, it's everywhere. Okay.
Right, we're not 100% certain that the main ceiling needs to come out, but we're 100% certain that the lower ceiling needs to come out because it could not have gotten to the lower ceiling without penetrating the top.
I got you. Okay.
Also, a lot of the inside of the,
The other problem that you would have if you only did a small section, you know, like you're saying, come out 2 feet around, is the patch.
The patch job is
Okay.
Miserable.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I've been here, like I said, 24 years now, and I have not seen the greatest tapers and stuff like that. Because what's gonna happen is, you're gonna end up doing a huge area, and the whole ceiling will get painted. All right, you're not sheetrocking, but you're doing this. By the time you get done, you might as well just do it and recover it and make it all look the same. Because no matter what, you go patching that thing, and unless this guy is really great, you're gonna see it.
Another disadvantage that we had is that when we had the roof put on, it's like you bought a house and the people that lived in the house before you got there, they put a roof on. Yeah, they just put the roof on. They didn't see anything beyond the roof because that's all that they're doing. So we don't have the advantage of being able to communicate with whoever put the roof on. Say, when you put the roof on, what did you find?
Exactly.
Because all they were talking about is doing the roof.
See, again, that's the reason why you need someone overseeing, and not that these guys or any of the contractors would ever really want to do something wrong, but it's human, everyone's human, and they're not the ones doing it. I'm not sure about that, but their workers are doing it. Are their workers 100% like them? You know what I mean? Yes? Okay. All right, very good. But I think you know what I'm talking about. You know, when it's the owners or really the higher ups, they want to make sure it's done right. Sometimes employees just do what they need to do.
I also like to just put out that Roger was an inspector, I was also a general contractor, and I built houses in New York. We're also, my church is restoring a building in DeLand. It's on the corner of Voorhees and Clara. It was a 100-year-old building, flat roof, you had to repair the roof, you had to stabilize the base of it. So I kind of got a re-evaluation of how, you know, things work from that stuff. But the most important thing was having a general contractor. Because having a general contractor, it kind of lessens the opportunity for just one craft come in and do their job and then say, well, I'm moving on to the next. The general contractor, I mean, you guys have to wait too. Because all that comes along with that. It does free up your subs from just saying, I'm just coming to do what I gotta do. But when we leave here, then you got the answer to us. Or not you, him, but just from that perspective. And so I appreciate what Angela gave me. And I wasn't here when they put the roof on. I wasn't in that conversation. So where we are right now, we are trying to remediate what was either done or not done. And this is where we are now. So
I can tell you this, from when you go into the record room, you go into that back closet, you look up and see the hole, I can already tell you that some of your joists and brackets are rotted out.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I can't tell you the extent, but I can promise you
Oh, yeah.
that you've got just so much damage in your joists and your roof, so much. From what I can see in that hole, right, there's a lot of damage right there. I mean, you've got your slats there, right, that are broken through. That's just purely from the weight of the water damage. I mean, it wasn't like there was an impact. It just collapsed.
Yeah.
Right. So again, that kind of led to the question you were asking as well. I mean, we know that there was a significant amount of water, if not in an instant over time, that caused it to become weak enough to collapse, not only through that layer. It's wooden slats that rotted and broke. So drywall, plaster, it's a little bit brittle, right? But wood is wood, right?
Well, for it to, you know what that wood is, right? These buildings were done with plaster, so they're the wood slats.
That's exactly right.
That's stucco
plaster
too. Yeah.
yeah.
Labor plaster.
Right, exactly.
And as
We used to use, they used to use horsehair plaster.
Oh,
That was a lot of fun to take it out. You can't patch after that.
Well, one thing I can tell you, the other one of my jobs, so I worked for FEMA during the floods of 2010, and what it left me with was an aftertaste of, oh, I can taste it, and I can taste it now.
Yeah.
And I only got it when I got here, so I'm like a actual mold detector.
You're
Walk in the
carrying,
room.
right? You're carrying the money.
Yeah, I can tell that. So where we are right now, I want to try and wrap this up so we get out of here.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not rushing us in terms of that perspective, but I just so that I know that we're in this space here. I don't know how long we can
I would like to say something else.
please do.
This project is gonna be lengthy, and it's gonna be in steps, and it's gonna be very expensive, probably well over $1 million. And we need to figure out a plan to get these employees out of this building now, sooner than later. Because some are already been sick. It makes me sick if I stay here too long. He smells it, so
Taste it.
taste it, yeah.
Well, we can get, you know, trailers here
That's
on site
exactly.
right away. I mean, that wouldn't take long to do that at all.
This can be started as soon as you are able to make the decision.
And if we did move to trailers, you could be a little bit more aggressive.
Yes.
As opposed to having to move from people to people, step to step.
We have done working rotations 24/7, 3 different shifts on different commercial projects. And as far as commercial projects are concerned, either myself or Craig oversees all of those. We might not be on every single residential job, right? But whenever it comes to not just small commercial, we're there.
Now, one of the things that the building that we have in the land, we did qualify for a number of grants. Matter of fact, the state also gave us $500,000. This is an historical building, so there may be somewhere that we can qualify for some of the.
It's not on the
It's not on the register though.
It's not on the register.
Well, they can be registered.
If you register, you register, you have
That's the other flip side. We did register the building in the first part of registration. The national registration, they gave us $250,000, and because we got the national registration, then we got $500,000 from the state. But somewhere in there may be some other types of assets available. I don't know.
But that's what I'm gonna take time to look at too.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at a quick fix for the employees.
That also will limit what we can do too.
It will,
You know,
absolutely.
there's certain measures and requirements that are,
That's
you know,
right.
we have to hit in order to be, you know, stay on the historic registry. So
Well, yeah, the historic registers.
that could end up costing us more.
But there are also other programs that could assist the building as it is, not necessarily registering it.
Right.
To the young lady's point here, time is of the essence in so much, it's not only the health concern, but obviously every moment that goes by where the repair is not done. Mold is a living organism, right? It's not just some dirt on the wall, it's literally eating your building, right? So the longer that time goes, and I'm not sure what your actual timeline is, we're not talking about minutes, right? We're talking about extended period of time. But the longer that time goes on, the more and more it spreads, and it becomes not only a greater health concern, mostly general allergen, as Eli said earlier, there are some molds that are more dangerous than others. But it becomes a greater structural concern, you know? And I think that, you know, what, like she said, I mean, really time is of the essence, and, you know, if you can find grants that work, that's amazing and awesome. I would just say that if I were giving you my professional recommendation, it would be, don't look too long before you make the decision, because, you know, your health is a concern, and your local material is a concern.
Mold does not get better with time.
Right.
Well, we would have already had the money if the governor didn't deny it. Put it in the budget, he said no.
That's another comment, right?
Yes, Roger.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, Roger, because I was speaking to Rex Bondi yesterday, and he, the other day, and he mentioned the fact that, didn't you put in for some windows for $800,000? And it came to the state, so he asked me to get back in touch with him. I don't know what he meant, but, you know.
Probably wants to reinstitute it to see if he can get it through the governor.
Well, I'm going to push that through. So,
But
okay.
anyway, from everything that was talked about and everything, and quite a few people kind of went towards what we're discussing. The remediation is basically going to be only a Band-Aid unless we get everything taken
That's
care
why we have
of.
something with the windows.
So the RFP needs to go beyond just the mold remediation. It needs the whole package. And if it takes multiple contractors, subcontractors and everything to do it, we're going to need to do that to save the building.
That's really what's going to need to happen.
So I think that everyone here could agree.
And on a big job like this, is generally we would be having this interview with general contractors as opposed to, you know, craft.
The individual,
Yeah,
contractors.
because the general contractors would be able to have a bigger scope, and then when we give the general contractor what it is he needs to do, then he's the one that creates the RFPs.
Now, the individual that we have brought in to do the rebuild portion for us is in fact a general contractor. And it's funny because when I walked him around, he was doing exactly what he was doing. He was looking at everything. When we first came in, the impression was kind of that you guys wanted to keep it as economic as possible. So we're like, hey, listen, we understand that all of this other stuff needs to come, but for right now, just focus on the rebuild. But immediately he was focused, as a general contractor would be, on everything that had nothing to do with the remediation even. So that is a benefit in that that's the person we're working with. Again, though, I do not disagree with Angelo that having a single individual with your unified vision in mind, overlooking the entire process, is definitely not a bad idea. Like I said, you guys have to decide whether that's worth the expense, but it's, I mean, it could never be a bad idea. As long as you can trust in Angelo's expertise, then it's never a bad idea.
I know the last time we got an estimate on the entire project, I think it was either just under $1 million or just over $1 million to do it.
Yeah.
Just
It's definitely not going to be cheap, and as he said, the likelihood of it expanding is almost a certainty. The likelihood of what we're doing expanding may be a little bit less, but the entire project is almost certainly going to expand.
And the person that you have as a general contractor,
Yes.
is that included in the quote? that you
For the
gave
rebuild,
us?
I'm not sure the entirety of what he listen to his quote, because I specifically asked him, I said, hey, if you want to quote for the additionals, kind of make it a separate thing, because we didn't want to make the quote seem overinflated to you. So I'm not 100% sure in what he's doing, he's outside of my wheelhouse. I've not been able to review his quote in any sort of intelligent manner, which again is something that will probably be more adept at doing. But I believe that he has quoted you for at least everything that needs to go back in with what we have to do. We have a separate person, a separate company for the HVAC work, and a separate company. I think he's doing the electrical as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Your company,
Yeah,
same thing.
GC. But I believe that we're not necessarily attached to any, it's not a have to go with every partnership.
Right.
So, to Angela's, like, if there's another combination, we just brought in as a combination to the city. Here's an HVAC company that we work with, they do quality work, here's a contractor that does quality build back or reconstruction work, so.
Well, and we can actually put it out for bid too.
Yeah.
You know, so we're not stuck. That's why I was just wondering if it's in.
I would be remiss if I didn't get some feedback from Ricky, our public works director, that has seen most of this building. Hot seat.
I know I've seen water in the ceiling over there and the light in the bathroom. We used to put a bucket there years ago. So I know the ceiling up there. I agree the whole ductwork and the whole ceiling's gotta come down upstairs and maybe even further. You're not gonna know. It's like open up that proverbial can of worms. When you open this up, you're going to, but you're gonna have to realize you're either gonna put the money into it and go with it, or you're gonna do something totally different. And I'm not gonna say what that is because it's not popular. Even with me, I went to school here. Okay, we didn't have air conditioning. We had radiator heaters and a big fan right here.
Right.
I know. I believe what you should do, on my opinion, is get an RFP out to get a general contractor to oversee it, then have them do the RFPs to do that, if that can work that way. I think you do need a project manager that is a general contractor that can look, because it's gonna go way beyond what any of us can possibly imagine. And we may be wrong, but I'd rather prepare for the worst and hope for the best. So I think you do need a single person to contact, do that, and then go from there. And you're gonna get your prices. I mean, you guys already know it's gonna be astronomical. So you're not gonna get shell shocked. But how far are you willing, and what are you willing to do to have it done, and is there anything out there we can do? Because you do have historic grants we got when we got this building. That's how you got the elevator stuff. So you better make sure before you do anything, you don't interfere with windows and stuff with what the grants were we had before. Because you may end up, because they are historical grants, and I do remember them having to pay $100,000 for the building, and they matched $100,000 to get the elevator and stuff. They went Troy building, and all of them come in and did all this remodel. So it was a grant. It was historical. So I would advise you to look into the grant and make sure you don't violate anything where they come back and say, well, we want our money back.
That's why I know they have to keep the chalkboard. Because
Absolutely right. Chalkboard has to stay in one room, and they may require, they may not. So I just think you are right on point, getting a contractor, a project manager to do it that knows what they're doing, and have them go out and do that, and then you'll know what you're looking at.
I can agree with that. Like I said, I wasn't previous of what you guys are going to be bringing to the table, but from what I know, just what Angela spoke about, and what is actually what we need now is a little bit broader scope. Somebody can give us a picture of what the whole thing is going to be, and then you guys can either come back in, but we need to have that GC that's going to give us the directions based on his experience or hers. So, yes, anybody else?
Well, I was just wondering, nobody's really said anything about what we're gonna do until in the,
Well, we can't make any final decisions until
We can't with that.
May, but
true.
we can make recommendations. My recommendation is we get a RFP to cover a general contractor to cover an evaluation that would include the mold remediation, the weather sealing of the exterior, the remodeling of whatever has to be removed.
What are your thoughts
The
on
whole
the
thing.
employees out?
Yeah, a trailer to, probably have to get multiple
Yeah,
trailers.
multiple, but they can put those in
Or
for a
the-
matter of days. Yeah,
Yeah,
electrical
no,
and everything.
I live
If I may, there's another option to vacating the building, which is the mitigation portion, which we generally do at the end. But you could also do that prior, just to reduce the microbial load, to make the air, tolerable, and as an interim, rather than exiting the building. That's
But then it
also
could
an option.
possibly need to be done twice at that
It
point.
would need to be close. So it's a value assessment, right?
Exactly.
Does it cost more to have trailers or to have two mitigations? That's really what it comes down to. So just offering that as a buddy.
Well, I'm looking into the board of education, school board, because they have trailers. And I spoke to somebody that could possibly give us a loaner of a couple of them. They have trailers that also have bathrooms, so the whole thing can be contained in our backyard. That's just me just knocking on doors.
Sure.
But if that was a piece
If
of
I'm not mistaken, isn't that your septic system that's?
The septic system's over there, we have plenty of room in the back right there.
No, but you can actually tie.
We can tie right into that,
That's the whole
just
thing.
have the power,
Yeah.
just have the power brought in overhead temporarily.
because
You just can't
my daughter actually went to a trailer.
Can't just put
They
bushes
had a
up.
trailer in the backyard.
Well, there's a lot of places that you can actually get those schoolroom, you can get 2 of them, maybe 3 if you really need it. How many people are actually working in?
4.
So we're not,
But we also have to contend for a
Meeting
well, we
and
still
stuff.
have
So
meeting
I would-
Well, we got hurricane season coming in, so if it's gonna be during that time, they've gotta be able to withstand some of the weather.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would.
So what about the equipment that we would have to remove from City Hall, such as laptops, et cetera? Don't those have to be scrubbed in order to not
No,
take anything with and put back in?
they can be
Or
fogged.
sanitized, rather?
Yeah, they can be sanitized with fog.
So
They can
that
go- They can go
happens-
into a separate tent, put everything in there.
Okay.
You fog it, after 30 minutes, the fog dissipates, and you go in and get them and take them into the other room.
Okay.
Generally speaking, unless it is a porous, like couch,
Uh-huh.
right? It's very low effort in order to sanitize that and give it
Okay.
remove.
So that's very cost effective, is what
Yes,
you're
it does.
saying.
What about our public records?
That was the one thing I was just getting ready to speak to. Public records, which we have in the record room that you went upstairs, all that paper there are records that have to be maintained over a period of time. In some cases, up to 10 years. One of the things that we have not done is put them on computer. Because a lot of stuff needs not to be there, but you can't technically get rid of it because there is a requirement that we maintain them. So that is also in the process of my thinking, is that we're going to have to put those papers in some sort of, I don't know what we call it. They don't call it microfiche anymore, do they? They don't call it microfiche?
Digital.
Digital, yeah, we need to digitize. So yeah, that would be a problem that we have to either take, I don't know, if we were to take the product that needs to be maintained, can it be sanitized and then give us?
Well, you probably want to sanitize it after, most of that work is done, and get an area.
Well, what I'm thinking about is that if we can get what we have up there out of there, so you can have room to
There is
work.
a way you can start
There's
to
a
outside,
way.
yeah.
There's multiple ways of doing it without using any type of a liquid.
One thing I'd like to offer up as well, like I know a big concern for y'all is going to be the safety of the air as you're kind of in limbo here, waiting for the bigger scope of everything. We offer this hydroxyl air treatment, and those are generators that are completely safe to be running while anyone's in here, including all those records that are paper that can't be replaced. And it's not going to do anything to the paper, it's not going to do anything to you guys. What it's going to do is clean that air, keep it safe to even to the point where you may not even need those trailers on site because you can breathe it, you can be in here, it's going to be running at a low level constantly cleaning the air. Any mold that does come out of those ducts, that does drip in or seep in, it's going to be killing it as it happens. It only is attacking those mold spores and nothing else. So essentially you'll be eating, you'll be breathing in the cleanest air you kind of breathe.
I think it's a unit.
Those are, it depends on the square footage, so we would scale it off based off the square footage, maybe 1 per room, a few per level. we have different sizes, and those all,
What is called out of the sanitation protocol that Clean Environmental put together?
so it sounds like time sensitive wise, you guys have a lot to think about. I can't even begin to understand all the sensitivities that come with dealing with such a special and historic building, but in the meantime, we can buy you time potentially with this cleaner air system. And give you all peace of mind as well for the health aspect, the safety, and not feeling so much pressure to not be physically in the building.
So what he has is a multi-cluster ionization technology. It creates radical hydroxyls that essentially bond to different particles. It bonds to mold spores, it bonds to viruses, it bonds to bacteria. And because it's unstable, it actually ends up killing the mold spores or the whatever the case may be. Now, it's a fantastic piece of equipment, and it's relatively new. This is more of the cutting edge stuff. However, realistically speaking, you wouldn't be safe per se. It would be safer than not having them, but it's not a substitute for anything. Yeah.
So
Like I said,
in
just
terms
buy
of
the
the
time.
fogger, which one is, one was fogger and one was electric?
Because there's no sense in doing
That's
mitigation
the
and
different
remediation
thing. So the fogger that.
before it's ready to be done, but in the meantime, this can keep y'all safe before it can
And I
be.
guess that's kind of.
What was the fog?
Yeah, the fogger, it versus the electrostatic sprayer, is that the fogger creates both of them create very tiny particles. It takes the liquid and creates a mist on it. But when we use an electrostatic sprayer, it's the exact same as what he's doing, except that our mist is electrostatically charged as it exits our wand.
So that's during construction.
That is during the mitigation portion of the remediation.
So you wouldn't use it as a prophylactic on this?
If we were going to touch something that was heavily molded, before we touched it, we would probably spray it just for our own safety.
Yeah.
But as he pointed out, we're going to be doing containment. So you're not concerned in that respect with the spreading of anything. At that point, you're not using the mitigation or the fog in order to stop the spread because we're containing everything. At that point, it's just for our safety as we go in. We're going to treat it before we go in because that's going to go ahead and kill it. The fogger, the electrostatic sprayer, they're both going to kill it. The difference is only in the application method.
And the difference as well with the hydroxyl is that it's no actual application.
Right.
It's just like in the air constantly, whether or not anyone's here. And that requires no one to be on site. It's just gonna be running in the corner. We won't even know it's there. And that's
For
where
the separate records offsite, you can put a separate generator, hydroxyl generator to address paper.
Okay. Any more comments from the commission or the administrator? Any suggestions from the commissioners or the administrator?
I gave you mine.
I guess my concern is reading this letter from the professional air monitoring, which appears that we really don't have this horrible problem. And then the second letter from Clean Environmental, with what they wrote about the scores, they actually state that their review was based on somebody else's review. They didn't actually come in.
They did, but they also used the test that was provided with their visual to give that review.
Okay.
They were paid to give the protocol.
And I went out and I did some research on this kind of issue, I'm not going to talk about it now. But I just found it kind of interesting that they're relying on another company and not putting, it just didn't make sense.
They used the other company's test results. So somebody else did the test, and they used the test results along with their own visual inspection.
I can attest that is a standard protocol within the industry. Once there has been a licensed company that comes in and does air quality samples, it would be redundant to go ahead and get a second testing done unless you have for some reason believed it to be potentially fraudulent or something that
Or if you're
you know, you do it last year, well, that air quality test isn't going to be remaining the same.
The air quality results outside are going to vary wildly from day to day, depending upon weather conditions. But what you have inside, unless you equalize your air by opening all the windows and allowing kind of equalize, what you have inside is going to remain fairly constant over a short period of time. So depending upon, I have no idea who those companies are, but I just want to, speak to the defense of the method.
Yeah.
Depending on the length of time that had gone from the time that that test was done to the time of the second company gave their opinion, it may have made no sense. It would have been additional expense to you to have them come and do another test because, again, the results are going to be fairly consistent inside unless there's been some major environmental change inside, like, again, opening all the windows.
I think that's one of our problems. We didn't open all the windows on the coldest day of the year.
I'm not panicking over it.
The air conditioning went
I
off.
mean, in Florida, we have like 164 different types of molds or something.
One thing I would say to that,
194, yeah, so I'm not like panicking over this, but I get like Charlene, she has allergies to these molds.
We could go to a restaurant and have lunch together.
It doesn't bother me.
Right, we could go to a restaurant and I have a peanut butter stuffed jelly sandwich and then be completely fine. But if you're allergic to peanut butter and you have that sandwich, it's gonna be a big deal if you end up eating that.
Right.
So although it doesn't affect everybody, it really does affect some people in an extreme way. And we found that time and time again.
yeah, I mean, it
But we
goes,
haven't had a majority.
right, it goes even beyond that. It goes even beyond that. Again, as we mentioned earlier, as Angelo alluded to, which is the actual construction, the building itself is getting worse over time. So even beyond the health, there's that. But where the health is concerned, dust is a common allergen. You know, whether you're allergic to dust or not, if you walk into a very dusty home, you're probably going to start to sneeze. If it's incredibly dusty, you'll start to cough, whether you're allergic or not. An exposure over time for anybody and everybody is bad. We're just talking about dust. We're just talking about pollen. Forget about mold. We're just talking about any sort of known irritant where exposure over time is going to become an issue. When these tests are done, they're done per meters cubed. That means it's a volume measurement. That's great. It means that if the air test came back clean, it means that per cubic meter, there's not a lot. That doesn't mean there's not a lot. It just means that in any given area where the test was taken, the air quality in there, and it's an extrapolation, it's a mathematical equation, it's not the exact. They get a raw count, they do an extrapolation, and they go out from there. But if they didn't do a test over there, then it could be. But even beyond that, again, you're experiencing exposure over time. It's not a question of whether there's mold here. We know there's mold here. You can see it with your eyes. And I would imagine at least someone did a surface sample to prove that, yes, that's mold, not dirt, right? So the question is, A, as he said, what is an individual's tolerance to it?
In the report says that too, everybody's different.
Exactly.
I can't walk barefoot on grass because I'm allergic to the mold that grows under the grass. We have mold everywhere, we have mold in our houses, so that's why I'm not like going, wow, we've got to start bringing everything in right now without really understanding how much water damage there is. That's why I think Roger's suggestion 30 minutes ago should let's go that direction if we are.
The difference also, which was the second point, thanks for reminding me, I completely shot out of my head, was that mold outside, as I said, can fluctuate extremely based upon weather conditions where the mold inside doesn't. That means today I can take a test that can be incredibly high, and tomorrow it looks as if there's none out there. Even right now, if I take a test outside and I take a test 10 minutes from now, it can be wildly different. Whereas again, inside, it's not. You're contained in that. So whereas outside you have the benefit of constant airflow, constant and persistent new air, you do not have that benefit indoors. Again, unless your windows are open, which I see pointed out probably hasn't happened since the place was built, right? So that's another thing to consider is that yes, we have a lot of mold in Florida. Absolutely, it's one of the moldiest places that you can go. But when you're outside, again, that mold is blowing past. It's going all over the place. It's not sitting here. And for people who are sensitive, that's what becomes the issue. She could probably walk outside through a forest even that has a lot of mold in it and maybe not have a reaction. But then walk into a room that has a little mold in it and still have a reaction because it's sitting there.
Well, let me just give you this, because, just to give you our, methodology. There are 5 people here, 4 commissioners and the mayor, and we have to make a decision. 5 people have to make a decision. So it's not like if you went to one contract job and you got one guy that you have to speak to and you can sell him the deal. You have to sell all 5 of us, or at least 3 of us. So we're gonna have to come to Roger, you had a suggestion, what was your suggestion?
Just I think that.
The RFP.
But my suggestion was, in the RFP, we include all encompassing for a general contractor to oversee the mold remediation. If we have to move out into a trailer, the contract trailers will move into the sealing of the exterior to stop the moisture from coming in, the rebuilding of everything that gets removed because of the mold, and whatever needs to be done to make sure the mold doesn't come back for at least a few years.
So we're about to undertake a very large project here. And I mean, the scope is this one thing that I think Jim alluded to when we were asking about what the meeting is about. He said this is going to be basically an educational piece here, because none of us here have that expertise that we can say, we should go with you, we should go with you. So we got to come to some more nailing it down, and we also have a timetable to have to deal with. So we got a lot on our plate, and I'll take it from there. Anybody? Any suggestions? So besides, we can't do this at a workshop, so we're going to have to make this into an item on our commission workshop or a special meeting, which
Should only be a special meeting or a regular meeting.
Yeah, no, you don't need a vote to
just give you directions.
have the direction of doing an RFP for a contract or whatever, because it's taking that step of getting that information and that all encompassing. So I mean, that doesn't take a formal motion or whatever, that's just a direction. You're not making a decision what to do with that tonight. So you're not violating the context
The
of the
results
session.
is what will make the decision.
Yeah. So you're not violating anything by saying, go ahead and take that step, because
When we
that's
put out-
a piece of the information we need to make a decision.
When we put out for an RFP, we're gonna have to make its formal kind of request of what it is that we need. We're gonna have to formalize that so that we can go,
Yeah, we can try to bring you back a draft from that.
okay, I'll leave that to you. The ladies who are sitting on the side, would you like to have? Yes, ma'am.
When they start tearing your ceilings down and stuff, what am I going to do with our museum stuff, historic items that?
We will find some place for it, even if it's the Creative Arts Cafe. Have you maybe, I don't know, but we are going to respect that, because these are our historians. These are our museum people.
Anybody evaluate the museum on what would need to be done in there?
The ribbon and all the stuff, both of us all.
Yeah.
Kids with, you can see the light through it. That's the main thing in our loss.
And one thing that Ms. Dean was concerned about was that the beam that goes through on the roof, she was concerned about the weight that it can maintain, because we have all of our heavy stuff in the center of the floor. And so she was concerned about that. And it started to bow. So there again, there's
It's right above where we had a lot of water damage.
that's even another reason why we need to digitize that stuff, because we're in a 100-year-old building, but this is 2024. So we need to just upgrade our technology.
Well, the tons of building plans are up there. I don't think we have to keep all those building plans.
Oh yeah, they're already some of them recorded.
But if you come across the one from the American Legion, I'm trying to find a copy.
Yeah, I'll look for that.
Well, I'd like to say thank you guys for having us and the opportunity to present to you guys, and we are here at any point, whether you have any questions, either here today or any other time.
Thank you for coming.
No Roxanne, right, got Roxanne?
No Roxanne.
Okay.
Thank you guys for such a hospitable environment. It's really pleasant. I appreciate it. We
Thank
really-
Yeah, you saw us in the corner over there, like, oh no, what's going on? You guys really did welcome us in, and I appreciate that.
Well, we thank you, and I guess at this point,
Thank you all very much. Yeah.
we can adjourn it. Motion adjourned.